the BigAl Podcast with your host, Al Bishop, unfiltered and uncut.
Alrighty, welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. Today I've got a very special guest all the way from live from Bahrain, joining me via Skype. I'm talking to Lucas Carrano from Brave Combat Federation. Welcome to the show, man, and thank you very much for your time.
Hey, Al. Well, it's great for me to be here, man. It's a huge pleasure to talk to you and talk to the fans in South Africa. We have like a huge fan following in the region, so it's great for us as promotion, but personally for me as well. I love the country. Never had a chance to be there, like just passed by once, but hopefully in the future I'll be able to actually get into the country and get to know people better, visit some places, and hopefully like to catch up with some MMA fans as well.
Yeah, absolutely, man. We'd love to have you guys here. Lucas, obviously, what we want to talk about is Brave Combat Federation. You guys obviously are stirring up waves for somebody like myself. It's such a strange thing for South Africans. I think the biggest first point was Jeremy Smith, and as fans we're kind of like, okay, where is this promotion and what's going on? And I've been watching it quite closely ever since to kind of see your guys' progression. It's a massive promotion now. You guys are the MMA, what can we say, the leaders of the Middle East. Massive promotion. You guys are doing massive things. Tell us a little bit about Brave and how it all came about.
Well, it all started in 2015 when His Highness Sheikh Khalid bin Hamad Al Khalifa, who's the Prince of Bahrain and the fifth son of the king. So he was always like involved with MMA, like he loved martial arts and combat sports, and he got himself like into it, training, and spoiler alert, but he even competed himself twice as an amateur. And first he had this national project, which was like to develop the sport in the country and to give the youth of the country a chance to get into MMA. And we all know like how sports can transform people's life, and that was the whole point at the early stage. Then they stepped up to the professional level and start partnering up like with some major guys out there, like Frankie Edgar, Habib Nurmagomedov. So we had like a bunch of pro guys, and at some point, and that's exactly like when I joined the team, because I joined Brave and KHK like a year and a half ago now, when I came from Brazil. And at that stage, like Sheikh Khalid and Mohammed Shahid, which is a professional fighter himself and our president and CEO, they were having this discussion, and they say like, you know what, like, we are doing something really beautiful here, but we feel like we can do more, and with the team and with this national project, like we can touch, of course, Bahrain, and we can touch like a certain group of fighters, but with the promotion, it's where actually you can do something that can, might transform the whole face of the sport. And it was a very sensitive moment for the sport of mixed martial arts back then. We had a transition from models like in UFC, which is of course still the biggest player in the market, and some other secondary players also like changing or shifting some approaches that they had towards like the fighters, the fans, everything. And it was quite important for them to stay themselves like and to place Brave as a different player in the market. Like Shahid, as I mentioned, like our CEO, he always says like, sure, we're not here to compete with any of these guys. We're here to do something different. And with this, our expectation is like to first leave an impression and to say that, hey, it's possible to do things in a different way, to give athletes, no matter where they come from, a massive platform for promotion, to showcase their skills. And I think like a sentence that can summarize all of this that I'm saying is like, one day, it was like my first conversation in Chicago, to be fair. So we were talking, and he said that he said, hey, you're from Brazil, and like you guys have a lot of good football players, and I have to say, like, I refuse myself calling it soccer. Because you guys get me. And he said, like, you guys have so many good football players, and One thing that bothers me is all these fighters, these MMA fighters, they put as much effort as any football player.
Sure.
They are such skilled athletes, and they struggle so much. A lot of them also, like football players, especially in Brazil, like they come from the lower classes, and they overcome everything to become huge stars. But still, when you see the MMA fighters, they don't have the same lifestyle. They are not, frequently pictured as superstars. And he said, like, these things bothers me a lot. And I mean, we're trying to do something about this. And that's why, like, I mean, our sole focus is on the athletes. We say that. And I mean, I tell you that here live recording, but if we talk in a bar, grabbing a beer and just having like a chat, I'll say exactly the same thing, because
Sure.
That's everything we say. It's like, how can we do a better thing for the fighters and for the people, of course, for the fans watching? That's all we care about. And so far, I mean, it's been proven successful. It's a very simple plan. It's nothing extraordinary, but for some reason, like it proved itself like a successful approach.
Yeah, 100%, man. And it's, I think these days, especially as the sport is growing, that seems to be a topic that's coming up quite a bit. You hear stories of fighters that are contracted to the UFC that are coming out and saying, they can't even afford to pay for their next camp because it costs them so much medically and all of this, to get through a camp. By the time they've got their earnings, they're at a loss. So it's quite an interesting approach. Lucas, would you say, for Brave, is that what differentiates you from any other promotion? Is your focus is turned solely back on giving back to the athletes and focusing more on the athletes than the promotion itself?
I would say this, I mean, because that's exactly like what's in the center of the whole thing. But I think like side by side with it, it's the international aspect of the promotion. I think we are in a privileged geographic position being here in Bahrain. Like the Middle East is a hub for the entire world. Like we've seen that
Sure.
through like the last 2 decades maybe, like the whole Gulf area with the Emirates, with Bahrain and Qatar as well, like becoming some sort of a hub for the entire world in terms of logistics, transportation, business. And I mean, and geographically, it's a privileged position. It's not something. It's something that is more difficult to do if you're in Brazil, for example, because we're freaking far from most of the world, or you're in Australia, or if you're in Japan. I mean, so geographically, like the promotion is blessed for being in such a strategic position, and that gives us. And I mean, we're talking about a country with 700 kilometers square, which is the total size of my city in Brazil, which wasn't a big one, to be honest. And I mean, 1.5 million people living. So it's not that a big country. I mean, it has an impressive structure. Don't get me wrong.
Yes.
It's a developed country. It has like all the benefits of a fourth country that you can find anywhere. But at the same time, like since we're not talking like about a huge environment, I mean, territorially talking, you don't have that, it's not mandatory for you to make a regional event first. So if you see like most of the promotions, and I mean, I include even UFC on that, because if you see every event that they make, they have 10, 12 fighters from that country competing, which is logical, like by the financial point of view, by the logistic point of view, of course, and even to bring a crowd to the place. But talking about Bahrain, like we can make an event like we're doing now, which, I mean, it's tough to scout every single mixed martial arts event that happened in the world. But I'm quite positive, I'll say like, 95% chance that no one had ever put a card with 21 nations represented like we're doing right now. We have fighters from 21 different countries coming. And this is something like unprecedented. So I mean, it's not like if you have a promotion in Japan, like we had Pride, which was like probably like, every MMA fan looked back like with that nostalgia, looking back to Pride. But they had like a huge number of foreign fighters coming. But at the same time, they had like 10, 12 Japanese fighters on the card, which make a lot of sense for them. But when you look at Pride, like you should be like the top of the top to go there and join those Japanese fighters and make that Japanese card. The same with UFC. Like if you're fighting in Vegas, like there would be like 10, 12, 13 American fighters, and then you have like a bunch of foreigners, and usually it's just a top tie of these guys. And I mean, with Brave, it doesn't matter if you're from Pakistan, if you're from Nova Caledonia, or if you're from Brazil or US or any traditional market, it doesn't matter. Like, you can always look up for us because it is this international and global platform. And I think, like, I mean, I always talk about the fighter-oriented perspective, which is a very important feature. But I think that this global, persona that Brave assumed since day one, it also adds a lot to the mix, and it makes Brave being something unique in the market.
100%. Would you say that has almost sped up the success of the organization? Because I mean, this is quite interesting because Brave is only just over a year old. The next Brave is number 9. You've produced a handful of pay-per-view events, and already it seems like you cemented in the MMA world, like you've been running forever. Do you think that massive outreach to a huge international market is really aided your guys' success?
Oh, 100%, man. I mean, I couldn't agree more because, again, like we're talking about these unique and, unprecedented things that happen. And if you go back to any major promotion, like they all have a similar path. They establish themselves in their own market first.
Sure.
And then they move forward. But this like take years, literally years. And with Brave, like what we did was like we had our first event here in Bahrain. We had our second event here in Bahrain as well, like back-to-back events. And then 4 months of existence, we were making our first event internationally in Brazil. 2 weeks later, we were in Abu Dhabi. A month later in India. A week later in Kazakhstan. A month later in Mexico. 2 weeks later in Brazil. Now back to Bahrain. So it's like we did the math. And if you sum all these trips, it's like more than 40,000 kilometers, which is a round-the-world trip. And like in a year, like we had this round-the-world trip, with and covering pretty much like all demographics available, and that's for sure something that us to have this massive growth. Like yesterday, I was talking to some people in Portugal. We never had a Portuguese fighter, by the way, but I mean the promotion kind of brought it was brought to their attention, and I was like talking to a colleague from the media in Portugal. They were talking about this, and they say like, yeah, you guys, like, you still catch this even though you don't have any Portuguese fighter. And I say like, yeah, this is like something that we are always looking for. And I mean, it doesn't mean that we're not going to have a fighter from your country, but we're trying to grab the attention from the entire international community. Sure. And if you see like some particular results, like in Brazil, like we did that, we had like a market evaluation a couple of months ago in Brazil. And I mean, of course, like the fact that I'm Brazilian and I have like strong connections over there, it helped a lot. But if you see our numbers in Brazil, there's only one promotion that has more media space in Brazil now than Brave, and it's UFC. That's sure. all. Not Bellator, not ONE SC. And we're talking about promotions with 10 years, with 8 years of market. And within like this short time span, and only 2 events promoted over there, like Brave is already the second, most mediatic promotion, as per se, like in Brazil. And then this is like, it's huge. And that shows like how much we are really focusing on this global aspect of the thing, not only like becoming a regional promotion. I mean, we are based in Middle East. That's our home. Like we're coming back home now to Bahrain. But this international aspect of Brave, I think it's something unique, as I said, and for sure it's behind these massive growth within the first year.
Yes, 100%, man. And it's seriously impressive to see how quickly you guys have built this massive international promotion. And I think it's great for up-and-coming MMA nations as an alternative to what they have on offer in their own country. Let's say, it's a massive platform where they can get massive amount of views. It's good for young athletes that can, to help them get sponsors and stuff like that, because they can say, look, I'm fighting on Brave. It's a massive opportunity for an international market for sponsors. It's a massive opportunity for me to step up in my career. If I can get a belt from Brave, then then everybody's looking at me, and it's massively impressive to see how quickly that's all happened. And I mean, just like one thing, I'm like a massive nut for MMA promotional videos. That's like my thing, man. I just, if ever I've got a free minute, I'm on YouTube and I'm like watching these videos, getting amped up. And your guys' promotional videos are, man, it's I think I've watched the one for the next Brave 9. I've probably watched it about 20 times already. I can't get enough of it. It's amazing, man. And it really gets people thumped up, and a lot of promotions don't put that much emphasis into those sort of things, and I feel like those sort of things make the biggest difference. It basically shows the quality of what you guys are about and how serious you are about promoting, and like you're in it till the end, you know what I mean, and you just want to grow and get better. And I think all of those small little details, like even like poster designs and the emphasis you put on your videos, and those things make a big difference, and it's really amazing. What I just want to ask about Bahrain, you mentioned obviously there's athletes from all over the world competing. What is the MMA scene like in Bahrain itself and the Middle East? Obviously it's got a long history of combat sports. I mean, if we look at things like ADCC and how it was founded, I mean, there's a lot of massive Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tournaments that happen in like Abu Dhabi every year. So there's a long history of combat sports. But what is the actual MMA scene like at the moment?
Well, so first of all, like I would like just to give my 2 cents on your last comment, because
Sure.
Personally, like I'm a huge fan of promotional videos as well.
Sure.
Like, and that's exactly what I do as well. Like, every time like I have like 5 to 10 minutes free, like I just go to YouTube, start like searching. And I mean, not to say that I'm only a fan of our works. Like these days, I was watching again one that's probably like my favorite promos of all time. That's Ronda Rousey versus Holly Holm.
Sure.
The every fight starts with a revolution. I swear to God, man, I have goosebumps every time I see that thing.
Sure.
And it's crazy. It's like it's so good. And I mean, and kudos to our guys, because they are doing like they're putting enough effort in, and they are doing like a great job understanding like what you have to do, and all these, as you said, like they might seem like small aspects, but from the way you assemble like a setup for weigh-ins, to the promotional videos you release, to the poster design, all these small things, like they show the people what you really are, and that's for sure something that we focus a lot, because I mean, like we know our potential, we know what we are down to do, but at the same time, people around, like they have to know that, and there's no better way of doing it than showing great job being done. If you're sloppy with some part of it, it might give the wrong impression. So that's what it is. Like it's like 100% effort in every small aspect. It doesn't matter like how small it is, or it's always like a lot of effort invested on it to make sure that we're giving people the right impression and showing exactly what we are and who we are, instead of just like let's neglect this part of it and hope the fights are good. That's easy and lazy if you act like that. So I mean, it's good that it's recognized, and that's exactly like our intent with it. Answering your question now about the scene of MMA in Bahrain, as you said, like the Middle East has a combat sport tradition, which I mean, you have to understand, like the culture here is a little bit different, and most of the things, like they work in a different process. So if you see in Abu Dhabi, it was again a national project for them. You have Sheikh Tanun, which is the founder of the ADCC, and he fell in love with the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and then the submission wrestling and all that stuff. So it was like the grappling, as I say. So it was like a national project for them. And it's kind of what's happening in Bahrain with MMA right now. It became a national project. I mean, most of the people here, they grew up like watching the fights on TV and seeing athletes like going everywhere but Bahrain, because
Sure.
I mean, they were in the radar, and now like they have the opportunity to see all these guys here, to see like massive events happening in the country, and not only this, like, but to dream in one day like maybe joining, and we have like now a national team with if I'm not mistaken, like 10 to 15 amateur athletes that are competing in the World Championships.
Okay.
On which it takes place in the same week, like it's International Combat Week. So we have the IMMAF World Championships, and at the end of the week, like Brave 9 became a champion. So all of this happening in the same place. So it gives them like the magnitude of like how big this whole thing is. And if you see like the youth now, like MMA is trending among them, and I mean, which is great for us, like I didn't, grow up in Bahrain. Like I'm a Brazilian that moved to Bahrain, but still, like I feel happy for being part of it, and for seeing like that maybe these seeds that we're harvesting right now, like in the future, like in the next generations, we'll have definitely like a fight fan generation, people that are like familiar with the concept. And if you see the difference from Brave 1 to Brave 9, for example, on Brave 1, for instance, like we had like a lot of people that they didn't understand what was going on, to be fair,
Sure.
and that's not, I mean, it's not something bad, like it's just a true, like they weren't used to it. A lot of people, they were here, the pro wrestling, it's huge,
Sure.
which honestly, like I can't get, because in Brazil, like we really don't, but again, but they love it. So they were thinking that it was something like that, like
Sure.
these mixed matches and all that stuff. And you say like, no, it's completely. And now people got the sport. They started following. Like even for other promotions were something huge, because even other promotions they grew a lot. So it was really something that, as I said, like it was a seed that's been harvesting like in the country. And I'm sure like the benefits from it, like they will be seen for the generations to come.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And I think you guys are pioneering a new generation, excuse me, offering up such a massive platform. It's I think how that system always works is, youngsters coming through a new generation will see, learn, and understand what's happening in front of them through a big promotion like Brave in Bahrain, and start to associate with those, start to associate with the biggest names, and start to draw sporting heroes from MMA, which will drive the next generation into really becoming a force. And I think that'll be a nice thing to watch. And I don't think Bahrain MMA is very far behind. I think it's going to, well, in a year, you guys have made this massive promotion, so who knows how fast it's going to happen for the actual fighters, the youth fighters coming up. You mentioned in there, Lucas, Combat Week. Now, that's the IMAF Combat Week has been hosted in places like Vegas before. I know South Africa's sent many fighters there. I know we've got one or two guys heading out for the IMAF World Championships. Tell us a bit about that week and leading up, which will be right at the pinnacle of that will be Brave 9. How big is something like this for Bahrain? I mean, it's a massive amount of people. It gets MMA global attention. You've got all sorts of fighters from every corner of the world flocking out to come and compete in the amateur world championships, and then another mass amount of people to compete at Brave 9. What's that all going to be like, man?
Well, I mean, thinking on the project that started in 2015, as I said, like, this week is probably like the pinnacle of it, like it's the realization of all the dreams that started back then. Of course, now we have new dreams, we have new goals, we don't want to stop. But this moment is really, really special, because that's the first time that the IMMAF World Championships will take place outside of the US, and they're coming to Bahrain. And we have Brave 9 as well. So Bahrain is also showing its own strength with the professional promotion taking place in the same week. And not only that, like we have like a week full of activities related and non-related to mixed martial arts. So we start like on the 12th with the opening ceremony for the 2017 IMAF World Championships. And then the fights go through the entire week. And it goes Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and it goes up to the next Sunday. And at the other hand, like we have in parallel taking place, we have food festivals, we have car festivals, we have awards, ceremonies, our open workouts, official weigh-ins, and Brave 9 on Friday, and after that, like the finals of the World Championship. So, I mean, it's going to be like a busy week for sports fans, and especially, of course, for combat sports fans, not only in Bahrain, but in the entire world, because, again, we're talking about the World Championships in the amateur level, and the biggest event ever promoted for a global promotion. So with the athletes from 21 countries. So I mean, the entire MMA community for sure will have their eyes focused in Bahrain during these weeks from November 12th to 19th.
Oh man, it's super exciting, man, and I'm really excited to see how that all pans out. The next thing I wanted to talk to you about, obviously, South African fans, trying to get them invested into your show. I'm not too sure how many guys are aware of this. We've got quite an association with Brave at the moment. I think the first one we can look at Cyrus Fees. We share Cyrus Fees. I mean, he's just awesome. I don't know when that dude ever sleeps. He just seems to be
a great guy, right?
Yeah, man. He just seems to be traveling all the time. He like lands home for 2 days and he's off to somewhere else. And he's a really great guy. So South African fans will know Cyrus Fees. They'll recognize his voice. He'll be there. You've got Jeremy Smith competing, and Frans Mlambo, who's South African born, fighting out of SPG in Ireland, who was recently on the show. So a lot of things for South Africans a lot of fights for South Africans to watch and to get invested in the show. How can South Africans stay in touch and where can they stream it and watch Brave and the entire Combat Week for that, in that fact?
Well, so first of all, like talking about like the South African guys, like I mean, they're such a great guys. Like I had great experiences with all of them. Like Jeremy was a guy like we had like such a strong connection. Like he was in Brazil fighting for us. He had like a really close fight that could honestly go either way. Like my personal scorecard. I mean, I keep counting all the fights. We all do that, right? So I was counting the fights. I gave it to him, but I mean, I don't blame the judges, and I don't think like they played for the home fighter, but because it was really a close fight and could go either way. But in my personal scorecard, like I had Jeremy having it, and that's why, like I mean, he didn't take a step back because of this. Like he's fighting a tougher fighter, and he's still having like that much value. Like it's not like he moved back after that decision. It was a fight of the night. He got his bonus for it. So it was and he's a great guy. Like an awesome person. And I honestly, like, I really look forward to meeting him again. And Frans, again, another great person, like such a talented fighter. And it's going to be awesome to have him, especially on this card, because he's a former world champion. On IMMAF, and I mean, it's going to be such an inspirational moment for all the guys competing in the IMMAF World Championships, seeing Frans, a guy that, like, with such a short career so far, like he has accomplished so much and has all the best references possible, and he's a very exciting fighter. He was also involved in a fight of the night in his first appearance on Brave, and then his second, like, had like a beautiful submission. So I mean, I think it's going to be like a great moment for everyone. Personally, as I said, like, I'll be more than happy to catch up with these guys again. I have like a very strong connection with each one of our fighters, but talking specifically about Frans and Jeremy, these are guys that I consider like my friends, and it's like it's going to be great to have them here again, as it's going to be with Cyrus, which is again an amazing commentator, a guy that adds so much, has so much experience. As I said, like he's always, it seems like he's always on air, like he just stops by, says something in the mic, and then he jumps back into playing again. And by the way, like, he's in Brazil right now. Like I just saw that he just posted something. So he's in my country. I'm gonna feel like a bit homesick for the next days seeing his posts about Brazil. And talking about like how South Africans can stay up to date with Brave and to catch up with the event, it's like the best way possible. It's always like our social media, like you said about the promos and everything. We have like an amazing content team, but we also have like a great social media team that creates like a lot of content every single day in the social media, like about all the fighters. So we have like each fighter gets its own fair share of the exposure that we have, and in every social media is the same thing. It's Brave MMA F. F stands for Federation, so Brave MMA F. In Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, so you can catch up with the event, staying up to date with everything that's going on. And when the fight week comes, our fights will be live broadcasted. So, I mean, if you're in touch with our social media, you'll be aware of like the best way possible to watch no matter where you are. Like we have worldwide coverage. I mean, we have 84 countries with live TV broadcasting, but if you're not in that coverage, like the rest of the world, like the other, not that many countries, like 84 is like, it's a huge number. So, but we still have a few left. And unfortunately, like, I think South Africa is included in the non-covered countries, but if that's the case, I would have to check. It's a big list, but if that's the case, like, again, make sure like you follow Brave on social media, so you be aware like in the best way possible. And again, not only like you will hear from us, if you have any inquiries, if you want to stay in touch, talk, leave your comment. Like the guys are here, even if you want to tell them like, hey, my favorite fight is this. What do you think? Like, you know, they're down to have like a nice conversation about MMA with you. So that's like how, you know, we want to keep things intimate with our fans. Like we consider them like part of our family. So if they have anything to comment, say any feedback, any comments, or if they just want to kill some time and have like a nice MMA conversation, just join us on the social media. That's the best way possible to stay on top of everything.
Yeah, 100%, man. Your guys' social media really puts out amazing stuff. Like even just from watching what they do, I've learned so much from my own personal pages. It's really interactive, and you guys put out great content. To be honest, some of the best content I've seen from an MMA organization. It's solid, it's consistent, and it's really great, man. And it really gets you pumped up as a fan. You know what I mean? You're like, geez, okay, this is awesome. You know, you guys put out the little news clip videos of what's happening, and I think that's such a clever way to keep people updated in a short video clip. You know, these days people don't want to read long stories and stuff. They just want a short video, get all the information and move on. And you guys do it in a really great way. And I think a lot of promotions are going to be watching what you guys are doing very closely very soon to try and get some tips and pointers from you guys, man.
Yeah, which is good, man. I mean, as I said, like, you know, we're doing this, of course, because we want to be successful as a promotion. I mean, I'm not going to come here and say like, hey, we're doing charity. It's not the case. Like, you know, we are a company, a promotion. We have our own goals and internal targets and everything. But at the end of the day, like, MMA is such a small world, you know, like it's a small community. Yet, like, hopefully, like we're breaking out like fast, you know, as fast as I've ever seen any sport. You know, it's crazy. Like, if you think that 15 years ago, like, it wasn't even called MMA. It was a Brazilian term, which is vale tudo, like all gold or something like that, you know? So, I mean, with that name, it's like it has like 15 years or so. So, I mean, it's crazy how it's been growing, but still, like, it's a small community. And if, you know, our experience or expertise, like if it can help the development of the sport and other promotions, like, we're more than glad to do so. And I mean, we also learn from everyone as well. Like, you know, people are out there. There are like a lot of people doing great works and putting on great shows and great fights. And of course, that also, it's a two-way road. Like, you know, we learn as much as we can help people out. So at the end of the day, like, we're pleased if we can, if you know, if this is the example or whatever it is, like, if it can help the development of the sport, like, I mean, it's very satisfying for us to say so.
Amazing, man. That's amazing stuff. What I just wanted to ask you was the obvious connection with South Africa. How closely do you guys watch? I'm going to say South Africa, but it's a general question for your talent scouting. How in touch are you with the South African MMA scene or the African MMA scene? Do you guys follow EFC worldwide? Are you constantly looking around for new talent from other promotions like EFC? And how does that whole scouting really work?
Oh, absolutely. Like, I mean, we are always watching like what these guys are doing out there, you know. If it's in, I mean, it is in general, but just let's keep the focus here in South Africa because, I mean, it's your target audience as well. And I mean, it makes more sense, but we're always watching the events, you know, scouting fighters. Our matchmaker, I mean, I'm a huge fan of him. Youssef Nasser, like, he's such a great matchmaker, you know. He's a guy that's never afraid of pitching the two best guys to fight themselves. It's like, which, I mean, again, it should be the basics, but it's not. We know like that's not how it works. And sometimes, like, because I'm used to that MO, you know, in MMA.
Sure.
Sometimes I call him and I say, like, man, you're crazy. Like, you're putting these two guys to fight. And he's like, dude, they are good. You know, they're the best. Why shouldn't they fight? And I was like, yeah, that's how it was supposed to be. But still, like, he's also, like, you know, paying close attention to everything that's happening. And we watch the African scene as a whole, but mostly, of course, as you said, like UFC, they are reference in the market. And we are always like checking up what's going on over there. And honestly, like they stepped up, like, you know, they brought their game like to a new level recently. Like, you know, it became even better. So, I mean, kudos to them as well, like for doing a great job. And we are, of course, checking everything from fighters to fans and, of course, the promotions. It's something that it's on our radar. And I mean, our interest in South Africa is expressed by those connections that you established. Like, we have an event now with that much countries coming, and South Africa is one of the few that has more than one fighter coming to the event. If you have 32 fighters as we have, 21 nations, there's not enough room for, you know, multiple nationalities represented. We have Brazil with like a bunch of fighters. But again, we're talking about a country with 200 and almost 50 million people.
Sure.
And South Africa has two representatives. So, I mean, that for itself expresses like how much interest we have in the South African market, how much attention we pay to the region, and how close we watch what's going on there.
Yeah, 100%, man, and hopefully we'll see some more South African talent coming through there in the coming years.
Oh, hopefully, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, 100%. Cool, Lucas. Just to wrap up, let's just give a quick highlight of your next card, Brave 9. Obviously, we spoke about Combat Week starting on the 12th of November all the way to the 19th with Brave 9, the Pinnacle returning back to Bahrain for the first time in a little while. If I saw the card correctly, you've got 16 fights on that card. Is that correct?
Exactly, yeah.
Long list of fights from all over the world. Like you said, 21 different nations. People from all over the world. There's a couple of title fights up for grabs. I think there's a few vacant titles. Some guys will be becoming champions for the first time. Just give us a quick wrap up of what's happening exactly on that card.
Well, so we have 16 fights, as you said. Of course, the main fights are 3 title fights. So we have the main event is the inaugural title fight for the lightweight division. It's between Otman Azater, who's a Moroccan-German fighter. It's like this guy, like he's like a huge superstar in both countries. Okay. It's like I'm talking like, you know, when they had like the Fast and Furious, like the last installment of the series, like they had a red carpet premiere in Germany, and the guy was right there with The Rock and Vin Diesel. Like, he's like that famous.
Cheap.
And undefeated as professional, like as a fighter as well. Like, his older brother is Abu Azater, like, who recently signed with UFC, like former World Series of fighting light heavyweight. And Otman is like, he's a very exciting fighter, you know, mostly like a brawler. His last fight at Brave was like definitely like a fight of the year contender. And he's going to fight against Alejandro Pato Martinez from Mexico, who's the Ultimate Fighter Latin America alumni, like a former The Ultimate Fighter contender. So these 2 guys will be pitched to fight for the inaugural lightweight title. The co-main event of the evening, like, we have Elias Boudexdam, who's the current featherweight champion, he's from Algeria, defending his title against Lucas Martins or Lucas Mineiro. If you guys like follow UFC, like, you remember him from UFC, like he fought in 3 divisions over there: lightweight, featherweight, and bantamweight as well.
Okay.
It's like a classic grappler versus striker. Elias has like 11 submissions on his record, and he's like a very dangerous guy from the bottom as well. Like, his last fight, he fought Masio Fulin, also another UFC and The Ultimate Fighter veteran, and he got caught. And I mean, it was like he suffered a knockdown. And when Masio came into his guard, like, he managed, even he was like still rocked, he managed to grab a triangle choke, and he grabbed like the belt with that move. So I mean, he's a a very dangerous grappler, especially from the bottom, which can add some, interesting factor to this mix. Like you have like a striker who's like a killer from Chute Boxing in Brazil, and he's gonna fight against this guy. It's gonna be like a classic match. And our third and final title bout, it's Gurdarshan Mangat. He split his trains between TriStar Gym with George St. Pierre, Firoz Zahabi, and he also trains in Vancouver and Washington with guys like Demetrius Johnson, Bibiano Fernandez. So it's like he's well-rounded fighter. He's considered now like the #1 fighter in India. His last bout, like he moved up 2 divisions and beat like the top guy in India back then. So it was like a big of a statement for him. And he's gonna face Stefan Lohman from Philippines, which was the guy that fought Franz Lembo on Brave 1 and beat him like in that real close fight, which was the fight of the night back then. So that's our inaugural bantamweight title. Except for that, like we have a bunch of great fights: Call Booth versus Joras Alawi, Alan Omer versus Jesias Cavalcante, which is like, that fight could headline a bunch of cards around the world. And I mean, that says like, how big is this card? And for the South African fans, of course, we have Franz Lembo fighting Michael Degashek, who's a German-Brazilian fighter, really good jiu-jitsu moves. But now he's camping in Thailand, also like improving his striking. So that's going to be like a great one as well. And Jeremy Smith facing Ikram Aliskerov from Dagestan. So Ikram is a Sambo fighter. He's a very dangerous athlete. And I mean, Jeremy, you don't have to introduce him too much. Like every time he steps into the cage, it's fireworks. So, I mean, I wouldn't expect, to be fair, like I wouldn't expect either of these 2 fights to go the distance. And I mean, I'm sure all the fans in South Africa will be on the edge of their seats because it's going to be like super.
Yeah, 100%, man. Sounds like an amazing card, and we really look forward to that. Lucas, thank you very much for your time, man. I really appreciate it. It's so nice to speak to a different organization, to see what's happening out there. And obviously, it's such an exciting promotion, and we really look forward to what you guys bring in the future. And hopefully, at some stage in my lifetime, I'll make a trip out to Brave to see what's happening live. It will be an awesome experience, man. And thank you again very much for your time.
Oh, thank you, Al. Like, thank you for all the good people of South Africa. Like, it's a huge pleasure for me to come here and talk to you and talk to the South African fans. I mean, it kind of clicks really well with all that global perspective that we've been talking during the entire show. And hopefully, as you said, like you can just come up and join us in this event or in a future opportunity. Like, we're really looking forward to having you guys. To the fans listening, like, stay tuned on Brave on social media to be up to date with all the news. And on November 17th, the biggest card ever, Brave 9, the Kingdom of Champions. Make sure like you don't miss. Like I wouldn't if I were you. So thank you very much, man, and look forward to talking to you soon.
Thank you, man. So check that out. It's Brave MMAF. Am I correct there, Lucas?
Yes, exactly.
Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, 100% go and check out their YouTube channel. You'll be there for hours. It's amazing. 12th to the 19th of November, it's International Fight Week in Bahrain for the first time. It'll be pinnacled by Brave 9, 16 fights, 3 title fights, lots of South Africans involved. Go and check it out, and all the best. And thank you very much, brother, and all the best, and good luck for the rest of the preparations. I know you're under the pump there, so we hope you make it out with as little stress as possible come fight night.
All right, thank you very much. Yeah, I'll try to keep my sanity through the next weeks. Like, it's now it's starting to get fun. It's like it's 18 to 20 hours a day of work, but I mean, we're getting used to it. It's like it is what it is, right?
100%, man. And thanks very much, Ben, and all the best. And hopefully we'll chat to you guys soon.
This is the Kingdom of Bahrain. After a global conquest, a triumphant Brave comes home. The homeland welcomes back Brave in honor, and new champions will be crowned. This is going to be an absolute invasion. The kingdom will be reigned over by the champions. Brave 9. The Kingdom of Champions. Brave 9, 17th November 2017, Khalifa Sports City, Bahrain.